All right, so I've had a couple requests to try to help people be able to implement color change. So right now, color change is in a fork. So if you're using the main OS and you're watching this, as of this recording, it's not available in the main OS. You will need SA22C's fork. When I came up with color change, I thought it through. I was trying to think of how to do it. This approach is different from other boards from what I know. Now, I don't know a lot of other boards. My only other experience other than Profi was a Prism a while back. But in the Prism, and I'm assuming in some of the other boards, there's like a definition in one location where you can put in a list of colors. And then when you do the action, it changes the colors. With Profi, it's not at least my setup for color change is actually not doesn't work that way. So, if that's maybe that's where some confusion's coming in. Essentially, when it comes down to it, color change for Profi that I developed is just an effect. It does change the color, but it's actually all it is an effect. So you're going to add it into any style you want. Now, right now, it's not in any of these style editors. So I do believe, and hopefully I'm not making promises that aren't going to be fulfilled, but I do believe Matt is looking at getting it into a version of style editor for his fork. Um, there's still a whole, maybe ultimately, if it turns out that it's good enough, it'll make its way into the main OS, and we'll get that merged. That's not for me to determine. If it does, great. If it doesn't, the fork is working great. Matt did a ton of work, so I came up with color change. I got it working. I had a lot of help from Frederick to do it, so I can't say I just like did it. I wasn't a programmer. I kind of took a long time. It actually was a project I actually gave up for a little bit, and just because I thought it was too hard, and then I got back into it. I got some books. I read some C++ books. I asked Frederick a lot of questions. He gave me answers. So it's not like uh, this just magically appeared. So it was kind of a long time in the works. But now you guys want to use it, which is great. And then maybe it'll eventually make its way into the main OS, which would be great. But so for right now, you have to use the fork. And I'm going to kind of try to explain it. But I guess the biggest starting point is if you can, just think of it as an effect. So just like any of these other guys. So what that means is it's going to be in a preset, in a style of a preset. It's not like you just, build all your styles and then drop them in and all of a sudden you have color change. You have to tell each preset what colors you want to change and also what colors they should be changing to. So let's start off real simple. So you can't use style editor. I think I may have said it, but I also have it open, so I don't want to confuse you. But I'm just using it to kind of start as a start point. And this, I don't have anything else but just the main audio flicker right now. So I'm going to copy this, and all your work right now is going to have to be by hand. Um, so I have this, and let me move this down. All right, so this is an audio flicker. There's two colors in the audio flicker right now. So there's a red, and then there's this RGB 128. This is my offset to red whenever I do audio flicker. So that's just what I usually use. So now what I want to do is I'm going to break this apart, and you can actually do this. This is actually I hand code a lot of my styles now. You don't have to if you use the editor, and if you see my other video, the style editor does a great job. But for me, it actually makes it easier to read the styles. So usually I break them apart in such a way. So these brackets, the greater than, less than, are always what you're looking for. So I'm going to break this guy apart. So that's my first color, and then your comma, and then that's going to be my second color. And then this is, because it's an RGB, it's got its own closing bracket, so I want to get that bracket out of the way. All right, so this makes it, for me, easier to read, hopefully for you too. So there's two colors here, all right? If I want to do color change, I'm going to have to tell what colors they want to be. So the way color change works is it's really just a list or an array of colors. So I'm going to write out the first list of colors I want. And the color change, as an effect, can handle as many colors as you want. So by default, a lot of mine I've been building with 12 and 13 colors. I've kind of, I mean, you could do 30, but when you think about it, there's not so much variance between the colors that doing so many gets there. But for our purposes, let's just do 6 colors. So for the first color, color 1 is red in this audio flicker. So let's make a list of 6 colors that I want as my first color. So I'm going to do red, we'll do blue. I'm going to do super simple just so you guys can follow this along. Yellow, orange, and I always like deep sky blue, so I'll end with deep sky blue. All right, so I've got 6 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's color 1. All right, so now there's a second color here. Now, if you wanted to, you could just leave only the first color changing with color change. That's the great thing about it. Usually, though, particularly with an audio flicker, you're going to want to pair it. For our purposes, I'll avoid the RGB stuff for everybody just to kind of make it easier. And having the editor available, having editor available, I find, especially if you don't have the colors memorized, actually helps. So I'm going to do this so I can just peek at these guys. All right, so now I need to have, so the way color change works as an effect is it's going to start here. Now, uh, there is the saved preset functionality that Matt built, which is awesome. That wipes all this out unless you clear it, because it's going to keep track of what last color you had set. But from a functionality standpoint and for our purposes here, take the saved preset off the table. It's going to always, color change is going to start with the first color in the list. When you click, either depending on your action, when you click the on the fly color change, it's going to then advance 1 in that list. So it'll move from the first spot in the list to the second spot. So in this case, if I had, my default would be red, so the saber would start out red. I do my on the fly color change, then it's going to be blue. I do my on the fly color change, it's going to be green. I do my on the fly color change, it's going to be yellow, etc. Till it gets to here. And then this is built into it. When it gets to the last one, if I do my on the fly again, it goes back to the very first one. So it just keeps circling through. Um, and then there are the scroll versions. There's color scroll as well as effect scroll. They have that scroll option. So color scroll has both options. So if you haven't read all the stuff, but there's color change, which is just on the fly. So when you click the buttons, you're going to change colors. There's color scroll, which has the on the fly. So you click the buttons and it changes. And then there's also the swing mode that Matt developed, but it's the same concept of on the fly. And then there's the scroll mode. Scroll mode, when you enter it, it just actually just runs through this list at a set amount. So it's like depending on what you put in, but I usually put in 2000 milliseconds. It'll run the first color, 2000 milliseconds go past, it'll run the second, run the third. So it's all the same concept, it's just different implementations. So you're going to have a list and it's going to go in order. So now this list is to replace my first color. I'm going to make a second list to replace my second color. So the second color here is the RGB 128. I'm going to use that to start, but the rest of them I'll use the colors. All right, so now my second color of this list is going to be what works with the second color of the first list, which is blue. So I'm going to put, let's just put steel blue. All right, always make sure you're doing commas, not periods. And then now I need a second color for green. So we will do, what would look nice? Maybe aquamarine. And you, of course, have to spell your stuff right. So that's part of the hand coding. So then the fourth color is yellow. So I want to offset yellow. We'll use maybe moccasin. I can't say I've actually used all of these colors. I'm just looking at the list and spelling it correctly. And then I need an offset color for orange. And maybe we'll do light salmon. And then I need an offset color for deep sky blue, and I probably would use blue for that. Okay, so now this is my list. So first color in audio flicker is red. So I'm going to hook red. My second color of color change will be blue. My third color will be green. My fourth, fifth, and sixth. The second color, these advance at the same rate. So So this red will work with RGB 12800, which is just a dimmed red. Blue is going to work with steel blue. Green is going to work with aquamarine. Yellow is going to work with moccasin. Orange with light salmon. Deep sky blue with blue. So these are now my color change lists. So let's just do regular color change. So now I have to turn this into an effect. So it's just color change, opening bracket, end of the list, closing bracket. Color change, beginning of list, and then end of list. So now I've got my two color change lists. I'm going to put them into the style now. So you want to take this, and this will replace the first color. You want to make sure that comma stays. So I'm going to paste that. Then this will replace my second color. So I'm going to paste that. All right, now I've already used these just so you don't end up accidentally doing any of them. I'm going to get rid of them. All right, so now I can reassemble that part of the style because color change being in effect has an open to it and it has a close. So color change. So what I've seen from the ones I've helped fix is usually it's missing one of these because you think you have it because of the end of the effect that it's in, but it is its own effect. It does need to close there. So that's typically what I'm seeing. But so now this I can reassemble. So and in your config you can leave the line breaks, although this will get really long really fast. So I would recombine this. So I'm going to take this guy, one backspace, so there should be a double at the end of that. I'm going to take this guy, one backspace, and I'm going to take that guy, one backspace. So now I've taken just that basic audio flicker that we saw here in Editor, and this is the color change version of it. All right, so now let's say you wanted to also mimic your blasts or your clashes or any of those other effects with this. Let's break this back out first so I can show you. So I'm going to break this back apart. And again, I prefer to always separate out that close of its original just so I can keep track of it. Actually, doing this by hand, I think a lot of people might hopefully learn more. But at any rate, so now let's give me some more room. So when you're adding effects, I'm going to actually do the same thing. Now, the way this is that wrapping and nesting that I've discussed. So I'm going to show it here, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap, for our purposes, I'm just going to wrap a blast around this. So let's just use the blast itself. So that's the beginning of blast. So now in blast, if you see here, it's blast, blue, and white. If I look at this, it has the base color is the first color, the blast color is the second. All right, so what that means, if from my first video, base color is what that saber is going to run normally. So let's go here. So the base color of blast is going to be all of this. That's the base color of blast. So now I need a comma here to give me the second color, which is the blast color. So the blast color by default is white, and then I have to close blast. So that's how I'm doing that there. So this is blast. This is the close of blast. This is the blast color. This is the comma that separates the base color from the blast. And then this is my base color. And so again, I'm just slowly doing this, building this up by hand just so it's visible. All right, so now I want to make, instead of white, I want to do color change for my blast color. Let me get to a new line, and then I'm going to create a list. Now, you can actually do different mixes. So say I have 6 colors in the first 2 groups of color change. I don't need to have 6 in the next one. I don't need to have the same number in any of them because, again, it works circularly. So say I only had 3 blast colors. It would advance. So the first change would be number 1 for all 3 color changes. The second one would be number 2 for all 3 color changes. The third one would be the third for all 3 color changes. But if I only had 3 in this one, the fourth change would be the fourth number in here, so it would be yellow. It'd be the fourth color, I'm sorry, not number here, which would be moccasin. But then for this one, so let me write it. So let me say with red, I want to do yellow. With blue, I want to do white. With green, I want to do, actually, I like white. um, and then, so let's say I only put three in. Excuse me. Actually, that's not going to work in this instance, but I'll show you what it's going to do, but it's not going to look good. So then, so those are my colors. So first change will be red, RGB, and yellow. Second change would be blue, steel blue, and white. Third change would be green, aquamarine, and white. Fourth change would be yellow, moccasin, but then it would be yellow. So in that case, that's not going to look good. So you know what? I'm going to put red. So that's my fourth color. So then in that case now, so now the fourth looks like that. So that means that the fifth is orange and light salmon. And then yellow. Well, that's not going to look good either. So I'm going to make that blue. And then deep sky blue and blue. We might as well get to that point. But so basically you could have done fewer colors if you wanted. Probably the easiest implementation is having the same. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors here. All right, so now let's put that into a style. Open of color change, close of color change. This time we'll just cut it so it goes away. So that's for my blast. So my blast was white. I'm going to replace it with that color change. So now I can, again, so blast is the effect. The base color is an audio flicker. In the audio flicker, the first color is going to be from this group. The second color is going to be from this group. Then I have to close my audio flicker. And then, so that means that for blast, all of this is the base color of blast, that's what the saber is going to look like, the blade. Then I have my comma to separate the base color from my blast color. Now my blast color is going to be this, and then I'm closing blast. So that's keeping track of it. So then go back and I just reassemble this. Don't accidentally delete a bracket. So always pay attention to where your cursor is. And then that would be that style. And then, of course, now obviously there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be added, etc. But for color change, that's how it works. So it's really just you have a color, and then you're going to make your list of colors. And like I said, I usually do it separate. Like you saw, I break it out, and then I put it in where I want it. Um, if you do that and you go to compile, again, in the fork only right now, and you get an error, almost, I've done a few for some people. Actually, I've done a good amount of them so far for people. Um, every single one is either missing a comma somewhere because they lost track of it, either within the color change or within the between the different colors. So like color A, color B, like the comma between that, or again the closed bracket. Particularly if you're using color change, people seem to forget you have to close color change, and then so you're missing a bracket, and that always is going to give you errors. Particularly if you have a long color change list, you're going to see a lot of times in the compile error, a lot of people are getting like the error that it says, in-out helper should have, what is it, 4 objects, but it has 11 or something to that effect. It's usually because you have, 8 or, yeah, 6 colors, and then you forgot to close that bracket, so then it takes the other parameters of in-out helper, and it assumes that you're trying to stick those in there. So watch your commas, watch your closing brackets. Those would be the two big things that seem to pop up with color change. But we are, Matt, I'm pretty sure he's looking. I can't make promises how long it's going to take because that's, he's already been working so hard to get us to this point. But eventually we'll have this in a style editor. If for some reason it doesn't get in the style editor, a long time ago, I had an idea to do it in a kind of a web tool, but the style editor would be the best result. If we, for some reason, couldn't get it there, I would maybe pick back up on that web tool project, similar to what I did with my localized lockup tool a while back. For any of you that use that, but it will get easier. It also, as I said, if it does make it to the main OS, I'm sure Frederick is gonna, be able to enhance this even further. But so for right now, if you're looking to use color change, you don't have any tools at your hand. Hopefully this kind of helps you out. If you get stuck, if you have questions, I've been helping people out. I don't mind helping people out. Uh, I do have a job and a family, so if I don't get back to you immediately, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I try to reply as quick as I can to any questions, but sometimes people send me questions and I don't get to them till the next day or so. It's just hang out. I will get back to you. But hopefully that helps you all out. And I guess that's it for now.